I officially welcome Josiah Leroy to the first official pilot episode, we're going to call it, of Attain Wealth. It's the podcast, so it should be a fun, good time with you. Again, just a little bit of a background for you on what this is going to be. It's going to be more of a story about you, your life, kind of from when you were a baby, when you started growing up, what you, kind of all the things that put you on a path to get you where you are today. And I just want to hear your story, kind of the things you've overcome, things that made you who you are. We have a little fun on some conversations here. In addition, kind of find out, where you're at today and how that's kind of put you in a good spot and maybe some things that someone would have told you when you were 21 or 15 or 10 that would have kind of shaped you to be the correct person that you are. Because, doing what I do for a living, a big thing that I tell everyone is I steal everything almost. I meet someone new, I talk to a new person. I'm constantly taking what they've done, the things that they're doing currently, and trying to implement what I think is applicable to me. So that's the idea behind this. Learn about you, learn about your story, and have a good time. And maybe we can give someone that's listening or watching some good feedback on what to do. So welcome. Yeah. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction. Obviously, I think you're a very good guest, in my opinion, not only because you have a good professional career like myself. You didn't let that stop you from being who you are. And I think that's very important and a great thing. So that's
for sure. Yeah, no, thanks for having me big time. I'm very excited for this. I can't wait to see, I know you've got some really awesome stuff lined up for the next few episodes. Yes. So got to subscribe to this guy here. He's doing some big things. But yeah, no, I'm a goofball at heart. I always say that I'm 34. I'm a kid at heart, big time. I'm passionate about everything I'm involved in. I try to the best of my ability to have fun in everything I do. I'm in finance professionally, and I think at the end of the day, as cliche as some of these things may sound, everything that we do should be geared towards taking care of people, whether it's what you're doing in your sector of the finance industry or mine, which is a little bit more on the banking side. It's just about taking care of people. We all kind of do we all offer the same thing, but what makes our companies and kind of, I would say, personas different is it's the people part.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I think the biggest misconception about, finance and wealth and all that stuff is everything means something different to each person.
Yeah, it does.
Someone's idea of wealth could be completely different than someone else's. Wealth to someone may mean, money. Mm-hmm. To other people, wealth may mean family. It may mean friends and things like that. So really, really excited to hear your story and learn a little bit more about what got you to where you're at today. Obviously, I have kind of an idea of the flow I want to have this go through. This is the, pilot episode, so to speak. So if you're listening to this, got some feedback, things you'd want us to change or flip around, let us know. We're going to kind of go through here, learn a little bit more about you, and then I have my pretend flashcards here. And what'll happen next time when I have an official guest, I'm going to whip these bad boys all through the room as we're going through them. So
you have to.
Kind of rapid fire.
Yes.
So kind of start out here. What I want to learn about is your childhood. I think everyone, for the most part, your childhood in a lot of ways shape who you are. Your family, where you've grown up, and what was your childhood like?
I think I have this conversation with people a lot. I think your childhood, your background, your beliefs, all of that, like it can hold you back. But I think a lot of people use that as a crutch, and they say, "Oh, I came from a not so good situation, whatever have you, and that's why I am the way I am." You have a choice. You have a choice to be kind of who you want to be. I'll say this though, I had an amazing childhood. Like, I do not take any of that for granted. I'm a very, very blessed man, no doubt about it. Like I said, I'm 34. My parents are still in the picture. I've got 3 kids under the age of 6, and I'm grateful that they're around because by the time, so my dad's parents, they were both gone before I was born, unfortunately, and then my mom's dad passed when I was 3, and then my grandma when I was 6. So they were all gone by the time my daughter Daisy is right now in her life. So I'm so thankful that they're here and doing what they do and how supportive they are. But childhood wise, I grew up homeschooled, which is funny because a lot of people, especially since 2020 and the pandemic and the return to school and work and all that, homeschooling has become kind of a hot topic.
It's way more popular now than it's ever been.
Yes, and a part of me is kind of excited to like champion that.
Yeah.
So I've got a little sister as well, 3 years younger than me. So I was homeschooled until high school.
Okay.
Went to high school. So we're in Buffalo. I went to St. Mary's of Lancaster. Loved my experience there. But homeschooling, my goodness. If you are in a position to homeschool your kids, I cannot recommend it enough. And I know a lot of people are not. Everyone's got to work. You need 2 full incomes, right? If not more nowadays. It's insane. But if you do have that opportunity, I can't recommend it enough. I think that's part of why I am so close with my parents, in addition to how just lovely they are as individuals.
Right.
But yeah, I could do a whole episode on why you should homeschool. But growing up, my hockey obsession started when the Sabres were in the Stanley Cup Finals in 1999. Tim and I are part of a hockey group chat where that's just been misery with the Buffalo Sabres the last,
It's a tough place to be right now.
Yeah, so we'll keep it positive here, not talk about them. But loved that. Grew up loving Star Wars. Again, I'm a big kid at heart, so I'm always doing things like that. Tim and I both share a love of video games, even at this point in our lives, which it's limiting between our careers and our kids. But those things are awesome.
It's
so
a different dynamic now because now my son is getting into them, so that kind of adds another layer. So
for sure, and there's nothing like it, right? Like sharing that experience with him, or seeing that light bulb pop, or he beats that level or game. Like it's so exciting. I'm kind of in the same spot with my daughter now, so it's nice to relive those experiences. But I think back, even like my dad took me to the movies to see the Star Wars special editions when they came out in 1997. So I was 6, and that was kind of my first experience with it. My daughter Daisy is 6 now, and we got to go see Revenge of the Sith for the 20th anniversary. That was her first in theater experience with it. So it comes full circle. Which
we did. What is it? The 40X.
Yeah, 40X, which was wild.
If anyone's ever done the 40X, it is very interesting because they shake you, they blow wind in your face, they hit you with water.
Yeah,
I got something like punched me in the back during some of the. You feel that in some of the. It was interesting.
It was interesting.
Cool.
Yeah,
but there's that new How to Train Your Dragon movie coming out, and I'm I was like, oh, that'd be cool to see with my kids. I'm like, I don't know if my son would like that because it's pretty intense.
I don't know if you saw, but Daisy fell asleep.
Oh yeah,
at one point. That. So it was like a nice rocking, I think there.
Yeah.
But crazy experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed my time in homeschool and enjoyed it in high school at St. Mary's, and then I went off to college at Buff State locally, which was great. And I got my bachelor's in business with a concentration in management. And from there, I didn't totally know what I wanted to do, but I just knew I wanted to be in the business world. And as many times it does, that led me to finance. And one of my first jobs out of college was at a bank called First Niagara, which was very prominent in our region.
Yeah.
They got bought out by KeyBank, but that was it. And now I'm going on my 12th anniversary this summer in banking, which is wild.
That is wild. Yeah, I think it's always very interesting to hear someone's childhood because it can either go one of two ways. Either they're in where they're at because of their childhood. Mm-hmm. If the other was traumatic, they went through some crazy experiences that got them where they're at. But the other side of the coin is a lot of people have kind of somewhat normal childhoods.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean you're going to end up any worse or any better than someone else.
Correct.
But it's, nice to hear someone's different story because, in this world now, it's people have different ideas of doing everything. And it's important to hear all the different aspects of that. So kind of looking back here, so as a kid, obviously you're in finance now. Back when you were younger, what would you say was your dream job? If you couldn't have done what you did now, 15, 16-year-old Josiah before he learned the beauty of banking, what would he have wanted to do?
I was so focused on being involved in hockey. Of course, we all dream of playing in the NHL if you're playing street hockey and roller hockey when you're a kid.
Joe Thornton beard going on today.
Joe Thornton beard for sure. My dad calls me Brent Burns, which I appreciate. So that's kind of nice. As funny as it sounds, I wanted to kind of be in like the business side of hockey. I don't know if that was necessarily the finance portion, but I wanted to be around an organization and kind of, I guess, be involved that way.
Dodged a bullet with the
I think
for sure.
I definitely did. But past that, I would say if I really had like a pie in the sky dream growing up and into my teens, I play the drums. I've played the drums since I was 3 years old. And I've been in various bands in my lifetime, and I wanted to do that full time. I wanted to tour and be all over the place. And it's funny how that changes over time, because now I would not sign up for that at all. And I passionately love to drum. I love it. The rhythm is just built into it's ingrained in me. I have such a love for it. I don't do it as much now with the kids being so little, but even now, if I go on a business trip and I'm away for 3 days, I'm homesick after a day. Like I'm ready to come home and be with my wife and kids. As sappy as that sounds, like that's my favorite thing in the whole world. So I love what I'm doing now, where I can kind of have the best of both worlds and do my thing and not sacrifice the people and the people part of it, I should say. But
yeah, and if anyone wonders why I have a podcast area now, is because I don't like traveling. So if I make a spot of my own, people have to come to me.
That's very true. We won't make Tim come all the way out to me and Darien Lake, so it's good.
Yeah,
but
I mean that's not too bad. But,
no.
So, but that's pretty cool to hear. It's I think you definitely dodged a bullet with that. I mean, it'd be cool to work for someone other than the Sabres, but all right. So, kind of continuing on that time frame of your life, kind of some defining moments. Things that made you who you are. A struggle, a breakthrough, a failure, whether that's at a job, it could be personal life, something you dealt with on the personal side, whatever that would be, that kind of gave you that extra shove.
Sure.
Is a good way to put it. I think everyone kind of has that moment where it's, you either react or you get reacted to.
Yeah.
So kind of what is that moment for you, and what did it do to you? And how do you overcome it? So I
think if I think back some kind of bullet point moments almost in my life, so I'm a born again Christian, got saved very, very young, like crazy young. I was 3 years old. I remember the conversation clearly with my dad. But I've been a follower of Jesus my entire life, and I subscribe to that above anything else. That was very pivotal for me. I think about the start of me dating my wife. So Lauren and I have been together, whether dating, engaged, married, since we were sophomores in high school. Like it's been forever. But once we started dating, this year's 20 years, which is wild. Like that changed everything. And there was kind of a new commitment, so to speak, in my life. And then, it's funny to look back on now, because sometimes you think like, oh, you guys were just kids, or you were teens, or you were so young. Yes, but like those things are impactful. We were not together for a good chunk of time. Early days in college, things were not on the right path for us as a couple.
Right.
And we got to a spot where we needed to separate, and it was about 5 months, which is, it feels like an eternity when you're 18. Yeah. But I think we both subconsciously knew we needed to clean up our acts and kind of get back together when the time was right. We did that. We cleaned the slate, and that reset was pivotal, because if we didn't have that reset and we didn't kind of almost reestablish that foundation back all those years ago, I don't know that I'm here today doing what I'm doing now. I probably don't have 3 amazing kids, right? Like I don't have an incredible partner in Lauren who I look at as a true best friend, not just a wife, but like your best friend, the one you take care of, the one you support, the one you have fun with, the one that you act like you're dating still, right? Like all the cliches are true. So I think that was absolutely pivotal for me. And then if I could say career-wise, if I'm thinking professionally, I was at, as I mentioned, First Niagara Bank. When they got bought, my branch went to a company named Northwest, still around in our area in the Northeast U.S. And I kind of had a crossroads. I had a choice to make to kind of continue on there or look for something new. And I'm at a kind of a local startup bank now, which I left Northwest to go to in 2018. Right. And it was a risk. It's a little bank, great reputation from the parent company and very good people there, but nonetheless, you don't know what you're getting into.
Right. That leap of faith, trusting that who you're talking to is being honest and telling you, hey, I'll catch you, and you don't know if they're going to catch you. You have to move away and let you fall. So
no, for sure. And something I prayed about. I talked to all the right people that I would consider that I trust. I always say, professionally, I've got my circle. I've got 4 or 5 select people that I'm going to for advice who I know will tell me, hey, you shouldn't do this, or hey, Josiah, knock this off. This isn't working. And I know that it's coming from a place of love and respect, and they're just trying to help me, almost like a parent or a brother or sister. So, I made that leap, and it's been the best thing ever for me. I've been at this company 7 years now next month, which is great. I've had nothing but opportunity, and it's been fun to kind of build the business, so to speak. It's almost like our own little DBA. So, right. Those are some of the bullet points that kind of promptly stick out for me.
Yeah, I think it's very important to kind of have an idea of what got you to where you want to be, because I think for everyone, you think back, back when I was, first dating my wife, thinking about how different my life would be if I would have never stayed with her, if we would never have met, because a lot of the decisions that I made were made because I was with her.
Yep.
And thinking about all the things that I've done, the people I've met, the business I've created, it's very weird to think about a reality where, think about like a multiverse, so to speak, where none of that happens. Where would I be at today? What would I be doing? Because there's a lot of drive that comes through from having a family, having some support there.
Yeah.
And it's very weird to think about a world where that stuff doesn't happen and kind of what that looks like. And it's always nice to hear what kind of made someone go to where they're at. Now, on the reverse side of great things, any good, funny stories that you've had happen throughout your life that, you could tell someone?
Well,
putting in the spot here. So
no, it's good. The constant shenanigans. I'll say this, throughout whatever I'm doing, I'm such a big believer in having fun, and that sounds almost impossible sometimes, right? You're like, how could you have fun in finance, right?
It's
like
not possible.
It's like, how could you? I think you could do it in most fields. Maybe there's a few on that list that you're like, hey, shouldn't have fun here, but I'm such a big believer in that, and in just laughing, hiring, and being around people that you want to spend 40 plus hours a week with, because you're seeing them as much, if not more, than your family, which is wild to think about.
It's crazy to think about.
But it's very accurate. I think, maybe one fun story here that kind of culminates all the things that I wanted to do. In 2008, it was then HSBC Arena, so KeyBank Center now, where the Sabres play. We got, my band at the time, right out of high school, got picked to play at the Scotty Bowman Cup, which is a tournament every year. Scotty Bowman, legendary NHL coach, roots in Buffalo, former Sabres coach, won everywhere but Buffalo, of course. He runs a tournament here, and the Curse. I got to drum at the arena. Like, cool. This is not like, a massive tour of sorts, and people are there for the hockey, not for the local high school bands. But I got to meet Scotty Bowman, and I just thought it was so cool to combine my love of hockey and drumming. I know it's probably not necessarily the kind of story that we're going for here, but
no, it's good. It's cool.
If there's one more I can think of, it's probably somewhat recent, and it's with someone I think is going to be involved in this podcast at some point. But we all know Del Reed, 26 Shirts. So 26 Shirts, long story short, if you're not familiar with them, they're a company that creates T-shirts. A lot of Buffalo-based shirts, of course, between Sabres, mostly Bills Mafia stuff. But they do some fun kind of geeky pop culture stuff. But I run a pop culture entity called the Geekiverse, which is all, movies, video games, all that. We cover that stuff. And of all places, Buffalo Soup Fest, we were asked to run kind of the children's area. We knew the guy who ran Buffalo Soup Fest, so we're like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Dell was there with 26 Shirts, who was only about 2 years in at that time, and I was a huge fan. I loved their model. Like, Dell was starting to make a name for himself. I followed him on Twitter. And my business partner at the time comes over to our area and says, hey, let's trade out. I'll watch the table. You got to go visit 26 Shirts. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. He goes, yeah, no, Dell wants to talk to you. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, Dell's listening to your podcast. He loves Star Wars. And that was my mind blow moment that I'm like, oh my gosh, one of my heroes here loves Star Wars. So I went over and talked to him, and we chat for, a few minutes, but then we kind of followed up and became friends after that. But like, it almost felt like kind of a chance meeting. You've gotten to know him pretty well over the years here too.
We do a lot. So I'll be in the Buffalo Bills magazine with him. He's actually, hopefully, my next guest. We'll see how schedules align, but planning on having him on here And then in addition to that, we support a lot of what he does at 26 Shirts. I mean, the story's awesome. I'm very big into charity and giving back, and I think that's just, kind of a great way to do something fun, make it a fun thing, but also help people. So
big time.
Kind of off topic a little bit here. I had a whole script, and now I'm just kind of veering off, which is my life. So I think one thing that I really want to talk to you about is the balance. I think that's a very good, talk about Star Wars.
For sure.
Balance of the Force, the light and dark side.
That's right.
Kind of fitting into your life. I think for me, I try to do as good of a job as I can. And I think if you're listening to this, you're a father, you're just someone who, has real life responsibilities, but also, personal goals and things you want to do, whether it's traveling, you want to sit at home, watch movies or TV shows. It's very easy to lose the balance of the two.
Big time.
You overweight on working yourself to death, but you never spend any personal time on yourself, and vice versa.
Yep.
So I think for you, you do a good job of balancing a lot of that. The scales may not always be equal, but at some point, sometimes, you get a somewhat good balance. So my question for you is, you've talked about your love for Star Wars, you talked about your love for banking, you talked about your love for family. There's only so many hours in the day, and unfortunately with the job, you got to work. You got to pay your bills.
That's true.
How do you find time to balance all these things in a way that you're not neglecting one to, add fuel to the fire to the other?
I love this topic. That's such a great question. Recently, I went through a leadership academy for where I work, and our instructor's name was Steve Lutz, who works for a company called Bartell & Bartell. I cannot recommend them enough. If you are in a professional environment and you are looking to develop leaders, that is your guy in your company. But one thing that I learned there is to shift the focus from work-life balance to work-life harmony.
Okay, I like that.
And that, I have goosebumps even like sitting and talking about that. And that sounds so dramatic, but it's so true. He described all the things you got going on in your life. Sometimes you got to jam. Sometimes you are the soloist, right? You're the guitar player. Sometimes you are just keeping everything afloat as the bass player, and so on and so forth. So when he taught us about that, it kind of opened my eyes. One thing that we talked also about during that session was like, how do you, I guess, to bring the B word back, how do you balance it? To me, it is being purposeful with my time. If you don't plan it, it's not going to happen, right? Like you might stumble into time off. You might stumble into being able to watch a movie with your son or play a game with your daughter, but it's probably not just going to happen. So for me, I'm at relatively early in my career. I'm 12 years in, but in the scheme of things, that's maybe a third of the way through if all goes according to plan. And I spend a lot of time where possible in the evenings at home with my kids and my wife. I plan to watch this movie with Daisy or to do this thing with Nora. And I think sometimes like it makes me sad. I hear people talk about like, oh, I have to do this or my kid's in the way of this. And sure, we might feel overwhelmed with that sometimes, right? Like it's like, got to get the kids from dance, got to get them to soccer. And it's like, I'm drowning here. I'm treading water. But at the same time, I think there's going to be a day when we all miss that. Like legitimately, we talk about it all the time at my house. We have a toy room that is disgusting. It's toys everywhere. We're super lucky.
Rooms are the bane of everyone's existence. You cannot clean them.
They are. It's impossible. But there will be a day when I'm missing having a floor full of toys. My kids are going to be grown up and hopefully doing their own thing. And my wife and I have always had the mindset to, even on the difficult days as parents, enjoy it. That sounds counterintuitive, right? Like your kid's sick. Of course we don't enjoy that. Or maybe your 7-month-old doesn't sleep ever. Like he just doesn't. But this is all temporary. So the nights are long, but the years are short, as they say. In terms of balancing it, I also mentioned in that leadership session to have a friend group, like find a peer group outside of your work. We've got that, right?
Yeah,
like we've got
good. Yeah, it's good to have a good friend group. Good support system.
I've said it so many times. I've known you for about 5 years now, which is crazy to think.
That's crazy. Time flies.
It does, but like I've never had a group of friends like I do currently like yourself and our buddy John and JT. We've got Rashad. Like there's a good group of guys there. And it helps that we all like the same thing. We don't have to, but we like video games, right? We pastimes here. We like Star Wars. We like The Last of Us, things like that, so on and so forth. But those groups, those group chats, those occasional get-togethers where we decide to all take a day off and see a movie or play a game, which is rare, but we do it. Those are partially what sustain me, and they keep me refreshed and renewed. Because when we take the time to do that, like how much more productive or how much more enthused are we when we go back to our job, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's very easy to drain yourself, and you only got so much energy in the tank. If you spend all your energy on one thing, you just sacrifice a lot. You go to work 24/7, you go home, like it's not the same. And I'm a big believer in that. It's being yourself, trying to find a good balance in a lot of ways, but it's not always going to be equal.
Correct.
And trying to find the best way you can and do your best. My wife always jokes around that I have what's called toxic positivity. I'm pretty positive about everything. And a big reason I feel that way is it can always be worse for the most part. I'm trying to keep a good outlook, try to keep positive, and I think that's very important. Kind of on this whole topic, kind of a follow-up question to that, if your 21-year-old self looked at where you're at now, how would he feel? Would he be pretty happy?
I think I would be thrilled, to be honest. I never, it's so funny to say, like, I never planned too far ahead. I always say have a plan, but know that plan can change 100 times. But man, to think, I've had a very nice career so far. I'm at a place I enjoy being at. I'm surrounded by people that, are really go-getters for the most part. I've got the best friends group I've ever had in my entire life. But, my wife and I, like I said, are coming up on 20 years between dating, engaged, and married. And then to have 3 kids right now, my gosh, like we always wanted a big family, and we're we're on our way to that. So yeah, no, I even where we live, like I live out in what we kind of joke is the country in Western New York. It is, but it isn't. And we've got some acreage, and we like that slight taste of homestead. We've got chickens, which is wild.
That's I feel like when you live out that way, that's kind of once you get chickens, you're in.
Dude,
officially a member.
My gosh, my wife saved one of our chickens from a fox, and we've been calling her Fox Slayer. So like, I didn't anticipate when I was 21. But yeah, man, I
married a Fox Slayer.
Who would have thought? I could not be more blessed where I am in life now, and I'm excited to see where it goes next.
I think a big thing that's pretty important is being yourself and who you are. But I think a big thing that I think about a lot, it's a little less now than it used to be, is imposter syndrome. I kind of look at where I'm at and what I'm doing, and it just, sometimes it doesn't feel like you earned it, even though you did. You forget all the things you've overcome, the struggles you've had to go through, the tough times you've had, and it's very easy to look at now and someone's like, hey, you're lucky, you're lucky to be where you're at. But it really isn't luck. People work very hard and kind of get where you're at. So my last question for you as we're wrapping up the, more talking piece is, I know you've been on a billboard before, so twice, right? Two different.
I want to be that guy 3 times.
Oh, okay. I've never been on a billboard, so
not yet.
Yeah,
not yet.
So if you could put up a billboard with one life message, 1 or 2 sentences, what would it say?
Man, again, I don't want to get too cliche here, but I think if you give your all, you do your best at everything ahead of you. That could be something as much as owning your own company, which is a lot of stress and a lot of things to do, right? That could be something like I play recreational sports. That could also be I have a part-time job and I work at a grocery store. Do the best with what you're given. And then I think the Bible says kind of do the best. I'm going to paraphrase here. So forgive me on this, but like it says people who work hard to do their best essentially are going to stand before kings. And the idea there is that no matter the task, you're doing it with all your ability. Right. So if I could sum all of that up for a billboard,
a lot of sentences.
It is a lot. You probably need like 4 billboards for it. But if you're going to sum it down,
what's one more?
If you sum it up, it is truly do your best, throw your heart into everything you have.
Yeah.
And if that is something, you realize over time that your heart's not in, maybe it's time to look for something new.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of that is the short-sightedness of it all. If sometimes if you feel like you're overwhelmed in that moment and you can't do your best, zoom out. Think about it as a bigger perspective, and I think that kind of flows in with that a little bit.
I agree.
So I'm gonna throw these papers like that.
There it is.
I said I was gonna do that, so those are done. So I have my next, note cards here. We're gonna kind of run through. There's 5 questions here.
Okay.
We'll try to keep them somewhat short. Some may be a word, some may be a little more of a question.
Got it.
First one, obviously, this is the Attain Wealth Podcast, so I got to flow it in here. What does the word wealth mean to you? And I'll sip my coffee while I listen.
For me, it could be spiritual wealth, it could be financial wealth. To me, it's family.
Family?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's family.
I like that one. Okay, and then the second one is, obviously a little quicker of a question. What's one mindset that completely changed your life? Like what changed in your mind to start what did you do to start thinking differently that changed you?
So 2 years ago, with another possible future, I don't want to spoil things, but a guest on the podcast, John Winters, took a John Maxwell course with him. John Maxwell, a very, very famous leader and author. And the course that I took with him was an 8-week study of John Maxwell's book, The 15 Laws of Growth. And in that, I realized the huge power of doing one thing at a time. We all think we can multitask. We technically can't. But, for example, I started a YouTube channel dedicated to lightsabers because I'm a huge nerd. But I didn't just start it. I thought about it last year. I researched what successful YouTubers looked like. I researched what I was going to talk about. I started taking notes. I didn't do that all on one day. I did it one day at a time. And a year later, I get to launch this thing and have fun with it because I did some of the prep time. Right. But I think a lot of people sometimes are all in or nothing. I want to do it all right now, but I know I can't. Like you said, there's only so many hours in the day. So for me, that was a huge mindset change, and it has flung me ahead so much further.
Yeah, and so here we're going to talk about the reason we do this, and right now, that's something that I need to work on. We talk about improving and doing better. For me, a big piece of that is I try to do a lot. I'm a go person. I'm going. I do a bunch of tasks, and I've been really trying to be deliberate on what I'm doing and taking my time. And once I get that checked off, I do the next one. The problem is owning your business. It kind of puts you in all these different places. So
for sure.
I really like that. So I'm going to ask you the question. I don't want your explanation. I just want to know which one you'd rather. I know your answer. What would you rather have more of, time or money?
Time.
Okay, I figured as much. I mean, we all kind of, based on the conversation, I don't think I need an explanation there.
Yep.
And then, what piece of advice would you give your younger self starting out?
Man. I would say always think of the bigger picture. Like you said, kind of zoom out. It's so easy to get stuck in our day-to-day or to feel like we're trapped or we're spinning our wheels. But those experiences are teaching you something.
Right.
Even right now, I told you, my company, we're going through a little bit of short staffing. I know this is making me stronger for whatever's next.
Right.
When I get there, I'm going to be happy that I went through it. It sucks right now. And I don't know what tomorrow or the next week looks like, but in 6 months, I look forward to looking back on that and saying, here's what I learned, and here's how I can either avoid this or do this better next time.
Yeah, I wish I knew the quote. I'm not going to bother butchering it, but it's, if you know it, let me know. It's like, iron sharpens iron or something like that.
It does.
Did I do it right?
You did. Yeah. Look at that. You didn't even have to look it up.
You have to Google it.
Yeah.
All right, last question here.
Okay.
What's one habit you credit for your personal and financial growth?
Oh, discipline.
Okay, I like that.
You have to be disciplined in anything you do. That can be, going back to what we talked about, doing one thing a day.
Yes.
My wife and I joke, we want to do so many things with our house, even down to how we clean it. We can't do it all. We start doing one thing and then we're like, oh, well, we're already doing it. We'll do the next thing. No. We made a rule. What's one thing you want to do today on this Saturday, and what's one thing I want to do? And let's do them and get it done, and then stop. We're not going to burn ourselves out. We're going to be refreshed, spend time with our kids. There's discipline. What's the thing we're doing tomorrow? And then we're on to that one. And then look at that. We've each done 7 things in a given week.
Yeah.
Right? And we're not overwhelmed. We're balanced, if you will.
Yes, it definitely feels overwhelming trying to do everything at once. And if you think about it that way, you'll do nothing.
That's exactly right.
So, and then it didn't really fly that well. So that's pretty much the whole episode. So we appreciate having you on. Hopefully, whoever's listening to this, watching this, got some good, maybe something they can apply to their regular life. Hear a little bit more about your story. I think it's a pretty unique one in the sense of kind of keeping the passion for what you love, but also, learning to grow, because I think the fact that you're in a suit kind of putting you where you're at, if I come into the bank and meet you, the last thing on my mind is thinking, hey, maybe this guy goes home and plays video games and, lives in the country with some chickens and, plays with lightsabers in his spare time.
That's right.
So I appreciate having you on.
Yeah.
Obviously, have a lot of good stuff lined up in the future. If you're listening to this or watching and you want to hear more, definitely, make sure you subscribe or, follow along on either whatever you're listening to podcast, if you're watching on YouTube or wherever that is. A lot of good stuff coming. Got a lot of really cool guests coming on. I got some people that, you may know from being local. I got some people that you may never heard of that are on TV. So I got a lot of good stuff lined up. So appreciate having you coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me. It was a huge honor.
Yeah, I look forward to all the future episodes. So
appreciate it.